You're listening to the Bloodshed Baddies.
Hi, I'm Lex.
And I'm Sam.
And we are the Bloodshed Baddies.
What's up, baddies? Balloons!
How did that happen?
Balloons just went up on Lexi's Zoom. It was really cute.
I don't know how I did it.
I don't know either, but it was fun.
Okay, what's up, Sam?
Not too much. What up with you, girl?
Not much. Well, got a question for you.
Yes, please shoot.
Okay. If aliens took over
Ooh.
and humans were put into zoos, what would you want in your zoo enclosure?
Anything? I could do anything in my zoo enclosure?
Yeah.
Okay. I would definitely want my bed so I could sleep. Humans
Girl,
have to
same.
sleep. I probably would want some books,
Girl, same.
a TV for binge watching,
Yes. Agreed. So far, our list is the same.
music for dancing,
Yes.
food, obviously. Or do they come and feed us?
They probably come and feed you.
All right, I don't even have to worry about that. A bathroom with a closed door.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good one.
Yes. Other humans, preferably ones that I love, like you, Brandon, Mom, Jake, etc. I would need my stuffed animal.
Girl, same. And my weighted blankie. I would need my weighted blankie.
And obviously clothes to change into.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think about the practical things like you did, besides my bed, because I love my bed. It's my favorite spot in the whole entire world. I'd want my dogs
Oh, for
and my
sure.
cat. Yeah. I think I would also want to be by a body of water
Oh, that would be nice.
and have like a little sandy beach to go to.
You can put your little tootsies in there.
Yeah, a little tootsism. I'd love to be like on a lake, but I don't know if that's possible in a zoo. So a little pond, like the hippo pond, that'll do. That'll do.
Just being a hippo pond.
Yeah, I need to be by water, somehow, some way,
I do like
and
that.
probably lots of cozy places to sit,
Oh, it's a good
like
one.
beanbag chairs and like egg chairs, and lots of cozy places to read my books.
I like that. So would we be in space?
No, aliens came here, took over the earth,
Oh, okay.
and then put
That was
you in a zoo for other aliens to come visit.
I would hate that.
I would love it.
You would love aliens just to come and
No,
look
I
at you?
wouldn't love it. No, I would not like it. I just wanted to be sassy.
What's new, baddies?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Short and sweet today. Also, guess what?
What?
When this podcast comes out, it'll be Mom's birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom. Stolat.
Stolat, mother. All right, but this one is going to be kind of a longer one. So you want to just jump right into it?
I'm not excited because I know the topic, but yes.
Yes. First, baddies, this is a listener suggestion from our awesome cousin JoJo.
Hey,
What up,
Joe.
JoJo? We miss you and love you. Great suggestion, but for warning baddies, this one is going to be a challenging one. For one, it is a murder of a child, which is always so awful and so, so sad. But I also think that Lex and I are going to have to be very careful on what we say and our usual freakouts based on the end result of this trial. So we just kind of got to be careful with what we say. But Lex and baddies, are you ready?
Ready, Freddy Spaghetti.
Okay. Caylee Anthony was born March 19th, 1986 in Warren, Ohio. She is the second child of George and Sydney Anthony. Her brother Lee was the first. George was a cop, and at the time of everything, he was retired, but still working in security, I believe. And Cindy was a registered nurse. When Caylee was 3 years old, they moved to Orlando, Florida. According to those close to Casey, she started her lying around her high school years. One instance, her parents were at her high school graduation and they're expecting Casey to walk across the stage, and they find out that she was actually a couple credits short of graduating.
Okay, so I was gonna say, yeah, high school is usually when kids start lying to their parents. That's a different kind of lie.
Yes.
Like, did she get dressed up in a cap and gown and go there with them?
That's a great question, but they were sitting in the audience waiting for her to walk across the stage.
And like, your last name is Anthony. You are one of the first ones called.
Yeah, and she was a couple credits short. She also seemed to be taking money from loved ones on some occasions as well. Cindy Anthony will say that her and Casey were very, very close and like best friends in one of the documentaries I watched. But I truly believe she had some blinders on about certain things. Cindy was also known to be like, quote unquote, I hate the term, but like in charge of the household. And Casey would complain, but then be like, no, I love her. So I think it was just like a complicated relationship between Casey and Cindy, her mom. Anyway, when Casey was 19 years old, a little bit later than she probably should have, she comes clean to her parents that she is, in fact, pregnant. Allegedly, a friend of Casey's said that Casey wanted to put the baby up for adoption, but Casey's mom, Cindy, said no. Casey also isn't forthcoming on who the father is. Apparently, she had a fiance, Jesse, who was led to be the father, but after a DNA test, it was proved that he wasn't.
Yikes.
Apparently, Casey also said it could have been an ex boyfriend who sadly passed away in a car crash. However, Caylee's father was never confirmed. In her 2022 Peacock documentary that I did not watch, Casey Anthony herself said the birth was a result of a rape at 18 years old. But on August 9th, 2005, Caylee Marie Anthony is born. Unfortunately, I think that through the sensation that was this case, Caylee Anthony isn't talked about more. Her story gets lost and the focus is more on her mother, Casey. But Caylee was this cute little girl with dark hair and striking big brown eyes. Caylee and Casey lived with George and Cindy, Casey's parents, in the family home. Caylee was also known to be very intelligent. At 2 years old, she knew how to count to 10 in English and Spanish,
Wow.
right? She knew her colors and shapes. She was just this cute, precious, smart little girl. Everyone in the Anthony household welcomed little Casey, and by all accounts, Casey Anthony appeared to be a loving, doting mother. However, Casey's mom, Cindy, confided in coworkers that she was worried about Casey's focus on partying more than parenting, and one of them even suggested trying to get custody of Caylee. So there was some drama.
Yeah. I think that's very typical when teenagers have babies. It's
Yes,
their brain is not developed enough. Your brain's just not developed enough at 19 years old to know, like, oh, I need to stop doing what's fun and actually prioritize a child. It's your brain's still like, no, I can have fun and be a mom and my parents will help out. So everything's fine.
agreed. Like I still want a childhood too, basically.
Mhm.
On June 16th, 2008, Caylee Anthony is 2.5 years old, and 22-year-old Casey takes her daughter Caylee and they leave the family home, allegedly after a fight Casey had with Cindy.
Okay.
Casey Anthony doesn't return for 31 days.
That's a long time.
Her mother called her every day, and Casey told some crazy stories and made up excuses for why Caylee couldn't come to the phone. So during this time, Cindy is talking to Casey, but not Caylee. Casey said her and Caylee were staying at the nanny's house. She said she was going on a work trip and taking the nanny, her roommate, and her child close to Caylee's age. Casey said she was with a friend, Jeff Hopkins, who was a widow, had a trust fund, and a child of Caylee's age. Apparently, he was trying to date Casey, and they went to Jacksonville, Florida. Spoiler alert, he did not have a trust fund, a dead spouse, or a child.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's a lot to lie about.
Yes.
Wow.
In reality, what Casey was actually doing, she was mainly at her boyfriend Tony's house for the 31 days. He was a DJ and she was going to the bars on Friday nights and at one point even entered a hot body contest on one of those nights. She also got a tattoo within these 31 days that I'll talk about later. She ran out of gas and broke into George Anthony's shed and stole some gas cans that he actually reported missing because he thought his daughter was in Jacksonville with that man, Jeff. So there was a police report made about this. Casey took her friend to the airport, then stole her friend's checkbook and went on a shopping spree at Target.
Oh my goodness.
Casey ran out of gas again.
Casey, let's keep the gas in your car. It's not, it tells you the light comes on, you gotta go.
I did have a friend in high school, the light was broken. So
Okay,
maybe
okay.
her light was broken.
Maybe, maybe.
But anyway, she's just straight up lying to Cindy because that's actually how she spent the 31 days, not like going all around and traveling and taking Caylee places.
And not being with these made up people.
Yes. Well, Jeff Hopkins was actually a friend that she ran into at this time at an Orlando bar,
Oh,
but
okay.
that was it. They
Okay.
just ran into each other after like years and years, and that was it.
Okay.
But on July 15th, 2008, at 8:44 p.m., Cindy Anthony, Casey's mom, calls the police and says her 22-year-old daughter stole the family vehicle, a 1998 Pontiac Sunfire that Casey drove. Cindy said she just got it back from the impound and wanted someone to come to the house. Apparently, Casey abandoned it after it ran out of gas that second time, and it was towed on June 30th.
So she ran out of gas and she just said, okay, see ya, car.
Yes. And it was towed on June 30th. Now it's July 15th. They did send a letter to the Anthony home to be like, hey, get this car out of impound. But Jordan and Cindy did not see the letter at first. But when they do, they go and they get the car. That's why it took a little bit.
That would be me. You should see the stack of mail on my counter right now that I have yet to open because I hate opening mail.
Yeah, I think it's very common. Like, you don't open mail right away. When they go and they get the car, they shockingly notice that Caylee's favorite toy was in the back seat. And even possibly more so shocking, there is an awful smell coming from the trunk.
That would be so terrifying.
Agreed. Cindy then goes and gets Casey from her boyfriend at the time, 21-year-old Tony Lazzaro's house, whom Tony has not met Casey's parents yet. So this is the first time they're meeting, and she's like going to that house and being like, get your butt home. Cindy and Casey obviously get in a huge fight over this. Cindy originally took Casey right to the local police department, but I guess they like close at 5. So that's why she made the police call.
All right.
At this point, and we will see that it changes, Casey is telling her family that Caylee is with the nanny.
Do her parents have this nanny's number?
No, and we will find this out. But then her brother was like, tell me where to find the nanny just so I can confirm Caylee's okay and then everyone can chill out. Because the brother is thinking, my mom and sister are fighting. That's why she doesn't want to bring Caylee around.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know where she is. I'll confirm she's okay. You don't have to bring her around this. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And her brother's the oldest, right? So he's like the
Yes.
peacemaker in the family.
Yes. And then Casey finally admits she hadn't seen her daughter in 31 days.
Oh my God. I think like as a grandparent, hearing that, like your stomach has to drop into your butt at that point.
100%, because my stomach has dropped just saying those words out loud. I can't
Yeah.
ever imagine being in that situation. Brother, grandparents, police finding out, just awful. When the police arrive, Cindy tells police that not only the car is stolen, because at this point, that's why the police think they're making this call out there. But
Mhm.
now her granddaughter, Caylee Anthony, is also missing, and that she was just made aware of this during the argument.
And like, this isn't like missing for a day, a night, a couple hours. This is, you have to know in your heart of hearts something's very wrong. She's 2.5. She's not taking care of herself.
No, and it puts the investigation already so far back at this point.
So far behind.
Cindy tells the police it had been a month since she last saw 2.5-year-old Caylee Anthony. The police notify the missing persons detective, and this is when the investigation starts. The police talk to Casey Anthony, and she tells the detectives that she dropped her daughter, Caylee, off at the nanny's a month ago, June 16th, and the nanny then refused to return her daughter to her.
This would be a hard story for me to believe as an outsider, just because, like, then why had Casey not called the police?
Well, police are in utter shock because not only did Casey wait a month to report her daughter missing, they are now way behind the curve of like trying to find her. And like you just said, people don't usually wait to report their children missing.
Like, if I had a child and the nanny was like, I'm not giving you your child back, I'd be standing on her front porch with the police on speed dial.
1,000%. And Casey will actually later tell the police, well, at the end of this, tell the police that she didn't go to the police because she was afraid the nanny would hurt Caylee if she did.
No comment.
Casey also told the police that she was an event planner at Universal Studios and she dropped Caylee off to go to work. And then again, when she went to come pick Caylee up, the nanny had just disappeared. Casey said she kept trying to call the nanny, but the phone said it was out of service. She confided into a couple of coworkers what was going on. From her point of view, she then hung around the nanny's apartment for a bit, hoping they would come back. And then she started driving around familiar places. The nanny took Caylee and still couldn't find them. Casey said she didn't want to go home because she was embarrassed. So that's why she went to her boyfriend Tony's and stayed there. Again, she said she didn't call the police. She was afraid the nanny was going to hurt 2.5-year-old Caylee.
I don't know what I would have done in this situation, but I feel like my family would have been the first people I called after the police.
Yes, me as well. But obviously, we're part of the same family. We don't know inside their family dynamic, I guess.
Yes.
The police are obviously like, okay, who is the nanny? And Casey says her nanny's name is Zenaida Gonzalez and goes by the nickname Zanny the Nanny.
Zanny the nanny.
Yes.
That's so cute.
Yes. Could be.
I kind of wish my name rhymed with like what I did or something I liked.
That would be cute.
Yeah.
Casey also gives a physical description that Zenaida is a half black and half Puerto Rican woman. She's apparently 25 years old and has been her regular babysitter for a while.
Okay.
The detectives take Casey and they're like, show us right now where this woman lives. Casey takes them to an apartment. The police go up the stairs. Casey stays downstairs. They knock on the door. No one is there. So they look in the windows and they realize there's nothing in this apartment. No furniture, anything.
Okay.
It's vacant. The police continue their search with Casey throughout the night, being like, show us where they would go, whatever. And they drop Casey off at daybreak. The police then go back and talk to the apartment complex manager, and they learn that the apartment had been vacant for months and that Zenaida was never a resident at that complex.
That would be fishy if I were with that police officer.
Yes. A roommate of her boyfriend, Tony, or ex boyfriend, will later come out and say that when she would tell them Caylee was at Zanny the Nanny's, he did think that it was a play on words about the drug Xanax with the street name Zanny.
I forgot about this part. And yep, it is not cute anymore. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back.
That's why I was a little bit reserved when you said it. Is it possible he thought Casey would give little 2.5-year-old Caylee Xanax as a quote unquote babysitter? Unfortunately, we will never know, and it really could just be speculation because it's so similar, but who knows? Police then find out information about Casey's supposed job. So they decide to catch Casey in a lie since she appears to be lying about a lot at this point. The police pick up Casey and they take her to Universal Studios. And Casey goes right up to the guard and starts interacting with him. The guard is like, hey, we don't have an employee with your information here. And Casey's like, check again, and gives the name of her alleged supervisor and the extension. And the guard is like, they aren't in our system either. And then another supervisor intervenes and lets Casey and the police into the employee section.
She's a very confident liar.
Yes, because Casey's like in the lead and the police are behind her. And she's like walking around and like waving at people down the hallway. And then she leads the police to a hallway with a dead end. And she literally turns around and is like, okay, I don't work here.
Literally, okay, if I made up a lie and then somebody was like, okay, we're gonna check on that, I would have like started to walk up to the guard stand at the beginning and then been like, no. I'm like,
I don't even think I could get that far. They'd be like, hey, we're gonna take you to your work, and I'd be like, I don't work there. I'm sorry. I lied. But personally, I don't really see how she saw this ending, but here we are. The detectives are like, we know you don't. Come down to the station.
It's not a surprise, Casey.
Like, we're surprised it got this far. The police found out before they took her there that she did work there, but she hadn't worked there for the past 2 years. She was actually fired in 2006, and she wasn't even an event planner. She just was the person who would like take photos in the park.
Got it.
She had everyone fooled about this though, including her parents and her mom's like coworkers, because she would come visit her mom at work and she wore a laminated badge. So Sydney's coworkers all thought she worked there as well.
That's wild.
Yes. Also, the police looked into the supposed people, like her coworkers that she confided in about her missing daughter, and they also didn't work there.
No.
Since it had been so long since Caylee had been missing, police decide to use the media to get the message out quickly because at this point, they're not working with a lot and to hopefully get tips rolling in. And the media obviously goes wild with this because already it is such an insane story.
What year again did this happen in?
2008.
Yeah, so like prime start of social media as well.
Yes.
That's like when Facebook was making its appearance.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, it was open to anyone in 2000. So 2006 was when it opened to anyone. So 2008 was like height of Facebook.
Heck yeah. Anyway, though, after the Universal situation, on July 16th, the day after her mom called the cops, the police bring Casey into the station and sit her down and are basically like, stop with all the darn lies. Tell us the truth so we can find your daughter. And they observed that there's no sense of urgency or concern coming from Caylee Anthony. She isn't frantic and seems almost unconcerned. So this is when the police believe it's possible that Caylee is safe somewhere, but they have enough to arrest Casey on a charge of child neglect in a hope that Casey will finally tell the truth because she hasn't seen her daughter in 31 days. Casey gets her phone call and calls her mom and is like annoyed and not taking any of the blame and seems more concerned on how to get her boyfriend Tony's number. This leads police to go to Tony's house and they speak with him and his roommate. His roommate's name is Clint. And they are completely shocked and had no idea where Caylee was. Because again, Casey would tell them Caylee was with the nanny. They tell police that Tony started dating Casey in April 2008. She brought Caylee over and was doing this regularly, like 3 times a week. But then Casey just stopped bringing Caylee and said she was either with the so-called nanny or with her parents. So lying to her boyfriend as well. Police are then made aware that just before the police arrived to the Anthony home, there was actually another call made from Casey's mom, Cindy, to the police. Cindy said on this police call that was recorded that it actually smelled like there was a dead body in the trunk of the car they picked up from the impound lot.
I don't think I would know what a dead body smells like, but I think I can imagine.
Police are like, we need to go check this car out immediately. And the minute they get to the car, they all say, without a question, they smell decomposition. These are police officers. They would know the smell. A cadaver dog is even called, and the dog alerts to the trunk. They open the trunk, and it appears to have been vacuumed out, and there's a stain in the trunk area. The stain is the size of a small child. They take in a piece of carpet for evidence, and also they take in some human hairs they found in the trunk as well. The police then called George and Cindy after discovering the phone call, but Cindy seems to change her story. She says she found a bag of garbage in the trunk. It was sitting there for 19 days in the hot Florida summer. There was an old pizza in there with maggots, and that was the smell. Later, Cindy will say she said it smelled like a dead body just to get the police there quicker, that she didn't actually think that.
That's interesting.
Yes. Investigators also actually tracked down a Zenaida Gonzalez. She lived 20 miles south of Orlando in Kissimmee, Florida. So not where Casey said she lived, but there was a real person. She's also middle-aged and not 25 years old, like Casey said. The police take Zenaida in for questioning. She tells the police she had no idea who Casey Anthony is or who Caylee Anthony is.
Did she go by Zanny the nanny?
I don't believe so. They verify her story and realize she did not have anything to do with Caylee's disappearance. They also show Casey a bunch of photos and ask if any of them are Zenaida, and she doesn't pick the real Zenaida's photo.
Oh.
So just another big fat lie. And this causes police officers to really start to think that it could be possible that Casey Anthony murdered her 2.5-year-old daughter, Caylee Anthony.
Yeah.
While police are investigating and Casey Anthony is in jail, her parents come to visit her quite often. One of the more notable visits, Cindy, Casey's mom, is crying and is like, someone just said this morning that Caylee was probably dead. And Casey Anthony rolls her eyes and says, surprise, surprise.
What?
Which is a very interesting reaction for a mother jailed for her daughter missing for 31 days, claiming she had nothing to do with it.
Like Sam said at the beginning, we have to watch what we say on this case because of the outcome. But that makes me literally want to vomit.
Yes, agreed. And you can look this video up. It's very public if anybody wants to. It's on YouTube. Casey also says she knows these visits are being recorded and she doesn't want to say things that would be misconstrued, but there are things she wants to tell her parents but doesn't want it recorded. Her mom says, just tell me what your gut is telling you. Is Caylee okay? And Casey says her gut is telling her that she isn't far and that she's okay. And Casey does appear to be emotional at this point.
I think, Casey, if you're aware enough that things could be misconstrued, maybe surprise, surprise wasn't the best choice of words.
Agreed. Preach. During this time, Sydney and George Anthony are also organizing searches, creating shirts, and basically doing all they can to try and find Caylee. They even hire a third-party person, and like 4,200 people show up, and they search the area, swamps, places by the airport. They search for about 4 weeks and unfortunately find nothing.
That's wild that many people showed up.
Yeah. Casey Anthony then gets her infamous lawyer, Jose Baez, who a cellmate actually recommended, and he shuts down all police communication with Casey. On August 21st, Casey Anthony is actually released and placed on house arrest, and the public goes nuts. People are showing up at the house. They're screaming at Casey, Cindy, and George. They're holding signs. They're banging on doors. They're trying to start fights. It is a mess.
That is highly inappropriate for all of those people.
Agreed. On August 29th, Casey is rearrested on check fraud because remember, she stole that money from her friend.
Oh yeah.
So Casey is immediately released and then sent back to jail because her bond was revoked. So around this time, Casey Anthony also sold photos of Caylee to ABC for $200,000.
That would not have been my decision.
So messy things going on.
I would have probably given them to them for free so I could get my daughter's face out in the public as much as possible. But I've never had a missing child, so I don't know.
Yeah, some people think maybe to pay her lawyer she did that. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then results from Casey's car come in. Remember, they took that little piece and hairs, and the police believe they have enough evidence to suggest there was a decomposing body in Casey's car. So in October, Casey was indicted by a grand jury on charges of first degree murder, aggravated child abuse, aggravated manslaughter of a child, and 4 counts of providing false information to police.
No matter what, those should stick.
Jose, her lawyer, says these charges mean nothing and he has seen people falsely accused, and this is basically one of those times.
I mean, innocent until proven guilty, right? That's the way our country works. But I think for at least the lying part, we know she admitted to that when she was like, "Oh, actually, I don't work here."
Yes. A few months later, December 11th, 2008, a utility worker, Roy Kronk, makes a stop along a wooded area to relieve himself.
Just say he had a pee.
To pee. Well, what if he had a poo? I don't know.
I hope he's not pooping on the side of the road, but you never know, I guess.
But anyway, he's relieving himself and he sees something that looks like a human skull. I believe he takes a stick and pokes at the area and realizes his assumptions are correct.
That's like legitimately what I think. I mean, again, I've never been in the situation where I've come across what I thought was a human skull, but I could definitely see myself poking with a stick. I feel like I relate to that on a personal level.
Yeah. And that ends up like biting him in the butt a little bit. But
Uh,
he immediately calls his supervisor, who calls 911, and police respond to the scene. Now, the reason he called his supervisor first was he actually was in this same location in August and called the police with the same assumptions, but the police came out there and then said he wasted their time.
what?
That police officer was later suspended.
That's horrifying.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God. I didn't know this. Oh my God.
It's very messy. Like this whole Roy Kronk story, you could like go into a whole deep hole about it of like he's seen it before, he just called to get famous, he messed up the crime scene by poking the stick. It's like a very messy situation. But regardless, he called twice in August and December.
So much has changed in the landscape from August to December.
Exactly. The remains were found 20 feet off the road. This area was actually just around the corner from the Anthony home, like a quarter mile only. It is the only spot near the home that there are no other houses at. Like I saw it on a map. It's like a big neighborhood, and then there's like this swampy area right there, and that's the only spot near the home.
I just can't imagine being those grandparents and realizing she was like, I want to cry thinking about that. Like she was a quarter mile from you this whole time.
Yep, since June. With the skeletal remains, there were broken trash bags and like a big canvas bag. There were bones inside the bag and outside the bag. The bones had no soft tissue on them. They were dry. There was also a Winnie the Pooh blanket.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, it is clear that the remains appear to be those of a child. 8 days after the remains were found, on December 19th, it is shared to the public that very unfortunately, the remains are confirmed to be those of Caylee Anthony. The manner of death being homicide. However, they could never say how because of how the bones were. With this, the police are able to get a warrant for the Anthony home. They walk into Caylee's room, and it is completely decorated with a Winnie the Pooh theme. Remember the blanket found with the bones.
Mm.
They also discover a matching canvas bag to the one found with the bones in the laundry room. This particular canvas bag was sold in pairs.
In Paris, France?
No,
Pears. Cut
in
that out. Cut
pairs.
that out.
So there was two sold together. There was only one they found in the home. Everything came from inside the home. The duct tape found at the scene also matched duct tape found in the Anthony shed. A stranger's abduction would not make sense at all.
Sounds like it wouldn't.
They also found out that on June 16th, Casey asked to borrow a shovel from her neighbor's house to shovel up some bamboo plants. He said she returned the shovel and it appeared unused an hour later. The police did see a shallow hole in the Anthony backyard, and the canine team did alert there, which will lead the prosecution to later believe Casey was going to originally bury Caylee in the backyard, bringing her out there, but then changed her mind. But again, we'll never know.
Also, how the fuck do you tell if a shovel's unused or not?
I agree. You could always like hose it off or something. I don't know.
Like, what if she cleaned it before bringing it back to you?
Yeah. On May 9th, 2011, almost 3 years after Caylee Anthony was found, jury selection begins. Finding someone who didn't know about Caylee and Casey Anthony proved to be impossible.
Yeah.
Also, instead of moving the trial, they decide to bring in jurors from elsewhere and like sequester them in Orlando.
I feel like I've never heard of that happening before. I'm sure it has, but I haven't heard of that.
That's what I thought when, like exactly what I thought when I read it. So behind the scenes, the trial was messy, and I won't really go into it much just because of like time and confusingness and things like that. But if you want more, Jeff Ashton, who is part of the prosecution's team, put out a book on the case, and I listened to it. It was really informative about everything and goes into a lot of details. So I recommend it if you want to listen to that book and learn more about this case from a legal aspect. But on May 24th, 2011, the trial begins, and it is wild. First, there are seats chosen for the media and the family, but the rest of the seats in the courtroom are given through like a lottery system. There are legit like fistfights going on outside about who will get a seat in court, so just bananas already.
I like being a true crime girly. I get the fascination for true crime, obviously. I don't think any part of me ever in a million years could sit in on a trial about a dead child.
I agree. I think I could sit in on a trial. I don't think I could ever be like, let me get in a fight because I better be that person sitting in there. But agreed, never about a child. Never.
Yeah.
Even though Cindy and George are witnesses, the judge allows Caylee's grandparents in the courtroom during the trial. They are instructed to show absolutely no emotion. And that part's kind of important.
That's a wild choice.
Yes.
Like you can sit here and that's a gamble. You can't make sure they're not going to show any emotion.
Agreed. Now, the prosecution put the death penalty on the table, and a lot of people will argue that this could be why the case ended how it did. However, and in his book, he talks more about this, but the jury was able to take that off the table and still vote certain ways. So that's just something important to note. Anyway, opening statements start off strong. The prosecutor is basically like, look at Casey's lies and behavior, couple that with the abandoned car, the smell, and the stain. It's clear she's clearly guilty of murder. They say her reason was that she wanted to live a child-free life based on what her childhood friends said about Casey wanting to place her baby up for adoption. So the prosecution is saying that was the reason she murdered Caylee, her daughter. Mm-hmm. The defense comes out swinging and makes a shocking opening statement. They say that Caylee Anthony was never missing. On the morning of June 16th, Cindy went to work and Casey woke up looking for Caylee. George, the father, apparently found 2.5-year-old Caylee drowned in the swimming pool. George yells at Casey and blames it on her, and she is begging him to help her out. So George Anthony, Casey's father and Caylee's grandfather, said he would take care of it and disposed of the body. Again, this is coming from the defense's opening statement. Apparently, George used to also do this with the family pets that would pass on. The defense then goes on to say that Caylee Anthony, their client, is a liar, but she was taught to lie by her own father, George Anthony. And then they say an accusation that stunned everyone. And again, this is just in the opening statements. They say George taught Caylee to lie at 8 years old when he, trigger warning for sexual assault, began to touch Caylee inappropriately. Caylee learned to live a life of deceit to cover up the dysfunction going on at her home. Now, the public is very shocked by George's reaction because he basically isn't expressing any emotion, and same with Cindy. George just kind of puts his head down.
Because they're not allowed to. Or maybe they don't have emotions about it. I guess I can't say. I wasn't in their head.
Well, the parents do come out later on and they say that this was for two reasons. One, like you said, the judge instructed them they were not allowed to show emotion. And two, they were actually warned that the defense was going to claim this. So it wasn't the first time they heard it. And it wasn't like this big shocking thing. They knew it was coming. They were just very upset about it. Anyway, George Anthony is the first witness. The prosecution asks him if he ever touched his daughter, and he denies it. Then they ask if he was present when Caylee died, like the defense is stating, and he says no. The prosecution also brings in videos of George visiting Caylee in jail. And on one of them, Caylee says to him, quote, "You've been a great dad and a great grandfather. Don't for a second think otherwise," quote. The defense doesn't ask George about the claims they made in the opening statements, which is very interesting. They do, however, ask George about his suicide attempt.
What?
Causing him to break down on the stand. In January of 2009, George did in fact attempt suicide. He drove to Daytona Beach and took around 70 pills and drank. He wrote a goodbye letter to his family. I honestly don't know 100% why the defense brought this up. Maybe to make the jury think that he was guilty for doing like what they claim that he did. I do think it's important to note that later on, serology expert Heather Suberry will be asked by the defense if the FBI agents working the case asked for DNA profiles of the family. The FBI took DNA profile of everyone at the Anthony home during their investigation. And I believe then she's asked, and she answers on the stand, that Lee, Casey's brother, was excluded from being the possible father. So they ask if Lee, her brother, could be the father of Caylee Anthony, because there were some accusations made about him as well.
Okay.
Now, Jose, the defense, doesn't ask about George, who the FBI also got DNA from and who's also excused from being Caylee Anthony's biological father. So just something important to note. So then an expert from the prosecution side comes on the stand. Personally, I do not understand science very much, so shout out to all the science baddies. But the expert basically says from the testing on the carpet from the trunk, there had to have been a decomposing body in the trunk. They also said that the hair found had a high probability of being Caylee's because the hair showed evidence of decomposition as well, which is wild. I guess I never thought hair could do that.
Mm-hmm.
On cross-examination, the defense basically brings up the specific science has never been used in a courtroom before, and then questions this expert's qualifications and things of that nature, basically to try to make reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that's always what happens when you bring on an expert is the other side's going to try to discredit that person.
Yes.
That's just kind of how it works. Or bring in their own expert to say the exact opposite of what that other person is saying. It's just kind of how court works.
Exactly. Then there was the chloroform issue. In the trunk, there was an unusually high amount of chloroform based on testing. Now, when bodies start to decomp, there usually is some chloroform. However, this was like a big amount. So the prosecution believes that Caylee Anthony used chloroform on Caylee and then used duct tape that was found connecting the lower jaw to the skull when the bones were found. They believe she did this so Caylee wouldn't breathe and die in her sleep. And then she got the blanket, the laundry bag, kept Caylee in the trunk while she was at her boyfriend's house, and then tried to put Caylee in the backyard, and then put Caylee in the woods. To back up this theory, the prosecution found internet searches for chloroform on the Anthony computer, showing premeditation. One of the searches was, quote, how do you make chloroform?
Interesting.
They subpoenaed the work records of George and Sydney, and George was at work on one occasion of the searches, and Cindy was at work on both occasions, leading them to say it had to have been Caylee Anthony to do these searches.
Seems like it.
And the defense again comes in swinging and says that a lot of cleaning products have chloroform in them. And again, just raising this reasonable doubt. But then the defense brings up Cindy to the stand. Cindy, Casey's mom, said that she was the one that searched for chloroform. She was actually trying to search chlorophyll because of the bamboo plants in their backyard making their dogs sick. But you know how sometimes they'll suggest things when you're like typing in? Well, it said chloroform, and she clicked it.
I thought she was at work on both of these occasions.
The prosecution, Alexis, is like, we have the times. And it said you were clocked in at work and that she was using her work computer at the search times. And Cindy was like, well, it was me who did it. I must have been home, which is interesting.
That's the word of the day. Drink every time one of us said interesting this podcast.
He'll be drunk, Baddies. The defense also asks Cindy about the smell of the trunk. She again contradicts herself from the first 911 call, saying it was garbage. The defense also said there would be DNA on this duct tape regardless of the heat and elements, and there was no DNA found on the duct tape. They also have a witness say that Caylee's death should not be ruled a homicide. So, interesting.
I'm sorry, what?
Literally.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Again, like we said, they're just trying to raise all of this reasonable doubt within the case. Tony, Casey's ex-boyfriend, is also called to the stand. On June 16th, the last time anyone saw Caylee, Casey and him were at a Blockbuster arm in arm. No Caylee in sight. Tony said that Casey never told him her daughter was missing. She never cried or acted scared, and he never suspected anything being wrong.
Where did he think her daughter was?
With the nanny or with the parents?
Got it. So she's just telling everybody in her life that Caylee is with the opposite person.
Correct. Then that tattoo artist is called to the stand because during the time Caylee was missing, Caylee Anthony, as previously mentioned, got a tattoo. The tattoo said Bella Vita, which is Italian for beautiful life.
Interesting.
She will later say it was supposed to be ironic since her life was not beautiful at the time.
Oh, okay. If that is how you choose to cope, different than I would.
Never in my life would I get a tattoo to remember this terrible time. Never in my life. But
especially a tattoo that said beautiful life.
Yes. And it's not a small font. If you look it up, it's big and ain't nothing I'd ever get tattooed on my body. I'll tell you that much, Baddies. Are you Googling it real quick?
Mm. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So basically, forensic evidence was the backbone of the prosecution's case. And the defense was basically like, here are all the holes, and this forensic evidence isn't correct. For instance, because Roy, the man who found the remains, moved around things at the crime scene with a stick, Jose said the crime scene was compromised and it should all be disregarded.
I mean, there's already sticks in nature, but I don't know. I don't know enough about crime scenes. I shouldn't talk on it.
After the defense pokes holes in the forensics, they call up all of the same witnesses the prosecution did and ask how Casey was as a mother. And they all said she appeared to be a great, loving mom with no evidence of abuse. So again, just putting in all of this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the defense rests their case, never bringing up the alleged sexual abuse, even though Jose did it in the opening statement.
That's a strategy.
Unethical? Question mark? The judge said because of this, he wasn't allowed to bring it up in the closings then either.
But the damage is done. But it's a strategy.
Yes. You're right, though, about the damage being done. You hear that once, and that's not going way out of your brain.
Yep.
Closing arguments. The prosecution was basically like, whose life was better off with Caylee dead? Pointing the finger at Casey, and then they show a picture of Caylee, and then, like, fade into the pictures of her remains.
That's will leave a mark.
Yes. The defense is basically just like, this doesn't add up. Then they show a picture of Caylee opening the back screen door herself, basically showing the jurors it's very possible that she went out to the backyard on her own and drowned that day. On July 5th, after just 11 hours of deliberation and no questions asked from the jury, which is unusual. Usually the jury asks questions.
I'd have questions.
In 11 hours, the jury reaches a verdict.
11 hours?
11 hours of deliberation.
This should have been days and days and days.
And no questions asked. For the charge of first-degree murder, they find her, you guessed it, shockingly not guilty. Aggravated manslaughter, not guilty. Aggravated child abuse, not guilty. The judge is on the documentary I watched, and he straight up was like, I was so surprised. Casey was found guilty on those 4 misdemeanor charges because of lying to the police and leading them on that wild goose chase.
I did say she's already proven herself guilty on those.
Well, are you ready for this? She is sentenced to 4 years, but get this. She had already been incarcerated for 3 years, and with time off on good behavior, Caylee Anthony serves 10 more days.
That seems very fair for what she was sentenced for.
Interesting. She gets released from prison July 17th with a $4,000 charge. The public is extremely angry, not only at Caylee Anthony, but also at the jurors. One juror said on the documentary that he probably received around 1,000 death threat emails.
No one should be receiving death threats, but you also have to realize you have an unpopular opinion.
Yes. But after Casey's release, because her relationship with her parents is just extremely strained at this point, she goes and lives with one of her attorneys for a while and then becomes kind of like a nomad.
That seems like you shouldn't have that kind of relationship with your attorney.
Funny you say that. Caylee Anthony then found herself in some legal trouble. The search company sued her basically for wasting their time. And Zenaida sues her for ruining her name.
Good job, Zenaida.
I agree. I was like, yeah, girl. So in 2016, Caylee Anthony had to file for bankruptcy. In these May 2016 court filing documents, explosive accusations are made from the PI that worked for the defense. He said Jose Baez had complete control over Caylee. He said at one point, Caylee was going to do an interview on TV, and at last minute, she was like, please cancel, I can't do this. And according to the PI, in these court documents that you can find, he said that Jose said that she now owed him 3 sexual favors then, but was a little more explicit than what I'm being.
Cool.
Over the next few weeks, apparently Jose and Casey's relationship escalated. One time he came to the office, the PI, and Caylee was running out of Jose's office naked and told the PI that she was paying off her legal fees with sexual favors. He said he was also hired to find the body before anyone else did because they knew Caylee killed Caylee. The PI said it was actually his own suggestion to say that Caylee drowned after seeing pictures from the Anthony home. Caylee and Jose obviously both deny these claims because that's extremely unethical and not okay, and Jose could get like his license taken away from that. Now, on Casey's Peacock documentary, previously mentioned, she puts the blame fully on her father now, even going as far as saying it is possible her father staged the drowning to cover up the sexual abuse to his granddaughter. Caylee says she doesn't know for sure, but she woke up from a nap and her father told her Caylee drowned and it was her fault, but he would take care of it. In 2024, A&E sat down with Sydney and George, showed them clips of this documentary for the first time, and administered lie detector tests to both Cindy and George. With George, they asked if he ever inappropriately touched his daughter or granddaughter, and if he had anything to do with her death. And Cindy, they basically asked if she knew anything about it. Both said no, and both passed. During her time being out, Casey Anthony has tried a few different jobs. In 2016, she started a photography business. Imagine going to your wedding and she's taking photos. In 2020, she tried making a PI company, but because of her jail stint, she couldn't get her license.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And as of late, in 2025, she is appearing on TikTok trying to claim she is a legal advocate. Yep. If there could be any light at all in this completely awful, insane, interesting, that we keep saying, story, with the aftermath of the trial brought a slew of bills in several states for Caylee's law. Governor Rick Scott signed it in 2012, and it makes it a felony for a parent or legal guardian not to report a child missing. Basically, you can face up to 2 decades in jail for violating this, which is how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I feel like all of the craziness of the lies and the media attention overshadows the fact that 2.5-year-old Caylee lost her life way too soon. And I think we all need to put our focus on that and not anything else. But that is the awful story of the murder of Caylee Anthony.
You know who else you can find on TikTok?
Who?
The Bloodshed Baddies.
Great transition.
We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. Go find us there. Leave us some comments. We got some fun comments on our last video about people's road trip snacks. Well, this won't be the last video by the time you see this, but love it. Keep it coming. Keep talking to us. Give us some reviews and keep on listening.
Yes, don't forget to send us an email with a case suggestion or story to bloodshedbaddies@gmail.com. We love when we open it up and see you in there, in our inbox. Intro music made by the awesome Cousin Vinny. Check him out on every single music platform you can. Tell a friend, tell everybody in the world, and tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you for listening.
We love you.
Sorry for a rough case.